Hello, welcome back. I am really excited to share with you this transmission today. It was inspired by, I was just doing a very raw share on the Patreon community, a twin flame kind of journey update. And through it, I was sharing some things that I'd been noticing and coming up in the energy, and it inspired this today that I think is going to be appreciated by a much larger collective and can be beneficial to people who are on a twin flame journey or not. If you are on a twin flame journey and you're wanting to know what's going on with the energy and kind of like what's going on right now, you might want to check out that video. I will link it below. It's very raw. I'm literally in my pajamas because I woke up and was like, I have to tell them. I have to talk to them. So it's what we call a coffee chat. And I've since changed. I'm still kind of in a pajama shirt, but I've gotten out of the pajamas, and I'm going to do this transmission for you today about transmutation and alchemy, which I believe in this epoch that we're moving into, in this era that humanity is currently in, is going to be one of the most coveted skills, if you can call it that. But I'm going to be kind of addressing and channeling from a human perspective. So the words that I use will be to help us wrap our brains around these concepts as the humans, as the third density beings that we are. And of course, I will try and explain and touch on the higher perspectives as we go as well. So there was a time where, and I can't even tell you how many years ago this was, but I remember we were moving into this new age, and everyone was talking about information, the information age. That information is the most coveted thing, like commodity. There you go. And entire industries and businesses and billion-dollar industry, and it's all about information and the exchange of information and sharing of information, and that was gold. And it doesn't even really matter if your information was correct or true or honest. It was just, if there's a market, if people are interested in this information, let's trade it, let's sell it. And there is this undeniable push and move that we as a collective are moving towards, where we're coming out of the Piscean age, we're moving into the Aquarian age, and we are starting to merge our spiritual selves with our intellectual selves, the kind of middle ground, where we're recognizing there's something more than just us, than just our bodies, and this kind of obsession that you see in the collective around ETs and UFOs and a lot of disinformation out there. But all of that you see accumulating, it's actually supporting people in tapping into multidimensionality and higher concepts, and believing and understanding that maybe I don't have the full story, and science or matter is not the end all be all. And people are new at this, right? Some of us obviously have been studying this and been on this track for a very long time, but a lot of us are brand new. And so we're getting flooded with all this information, and it's kind of exciting, but it's kind of intimidating and confusing. And there's just a lot going on. And, it's always easier to kind of learn about something and go and tap our toes into something when we're protected, when we're in the safety of our cocoon, and the internet is a great place for that. So we can go and kind of dip our toes into all these things without immersing ourselves, without sacrificing something of ourselves for the knowledge or the information, right? Sometimes we maybe have to make a payment. Sometimes we have to do a financial sacrifice in some way to learn something or to understand something. But with the internet and a lot of the free, information out there, there's a lot of people who are becoming what they believe to be experts on subjects and things without actually having any skin in the game, if you will, and not having to earn this knowledge or this role. So there's a lot of spiritual teachers. There's a lot of this in the community of people who have not actually created a solid foundation for themselves. And I'm going to say something a little controversial. Anyone can channel. Anyone can channel. We are channelers. That is what we are doing. That is what art is, right? When you create art, when you get inspired by something, when you put something from your brain onto paper, when you move and you dance, when you perform, when you sing, like, you are channeling energy. You are connecting with something outside of yourself Sometimes it's from a higher realm, sometimes it's from a lower realm. Most of us don't pay much attention to that aspect. We just allow it to move through us. We are channelers. That is what emotion is. We're all capable of feeling emotions. I know there's a divergent tangent we could get on and we won't go there. But for the most part, we're all capable of feeling emotions if we are human. That is channeling. That is allowing emotion as energy, allowing something to move through you, to feel it and allow it to pass. This is the simplest way to describe alchemy and transmutation. It is allowing something to enter into you in its raw form, whatever it is, or to alchemy is kind of a different definition, but go with me in terms of the relationship between the human and alchemizing something. So you're allowing something to enter and allowing it to move you, to channel through you, to move this energy in whatever way. And then it changes when it meets you, when it meets the depth of you and the energy, the codes, the frequency that you hold, how it shifts, how it molds, right? The, lead into gold kind of alchemy analogy there. When two people come together and the alchemy that occurs from their energies merging and transmuting and shifting and affecting one another, and then what the product of that is, what is made from that. Sometimes it's a lot of chaos and karma and darkness, and sometimes it can be beauty and healing. This is what we've all been asked to be doing in the Piscean age, and many of us participated in this massive collective healing, this shedding, this releasing, this learning, this unlearning, I might say, of what we've been taught, of us coming home to ourselves and saying, individuating ourselves enough to be able to look at our shadow. The divine feminine rising was this great thing in the collective because the feminine was, I'm going to almost say something again controversial, was a little bit more brave in looking at themselves in that inner gaze, that inward gaze. And this doesn't have to be women. This is the feminine archetype, the feminine energy within the collective. Those that embody this, which can be men, tend to reflect. Like it's easier for them to reflect within and to turn that gaze inward instead of outward, and to look at the darkness and look at the shadow and look at how they are affecting their life, how everything is a mirror for them. And noticing, are there things within that don't feel good or don't resonate, or, or some part of myself that's unhealed, some trauma, something that I didn't want to look at. That is healing. And we've heard this many, many times, but the only way out is through. So true healing is actually being able to allow something to come in, something from the collective, something from your past, something from your childhood, an emotion, a feeling, a thought, a sensation, and to allow it, to give it space, not try to control it, not try to shift it, not try to sweep it under the rug. That is more of a masculine impulse. I know many of you in relationships, especially men and women, there's always this great kind of joke where the man wants to fix and the woman just wants to be heard. And it's like, just listen to me. You don't need to fix it. I'm just telling you, and I don't need you to go and fix it. That's the masculine impulse. And there's a high exaltation of that. There's a beauty in that desire and that need to go fix something. But the thing about healing, transmuting, alchemy, is in order to be fixing something, you're making it wrong. You're saying that there's something wrong. So you're automatically moving into polarity, into density, because that doesn't exist in the higher realms, in the higher dimensions. So you're automatically saying good, bad. And then the transmutation can actually occur because you're not allowing the thing to be what it is. It'd be like, if you're cooking and you're taking an ingredient and you're saying, I'm going to use sugar, but it's not really sugar, and you're trying to make it something else. You're like, no, this is baking soda. It's like, no, it's sugar though. But no, it's wrong when it's sugar because sugar is bad for you. So I'm going to try and make this baking soda. That was probably a confusing analogy, but for whatever reason, that's what they gave me. But it's you're not embracing the fullness of it, so it can never be actualized. So when you deny aspects and parts of yourself, you can never fully actualize. When you are not willing to look under the bed at those darker, deeper things, whether they're things that have happened to you that were not your fault, but do need to be looked at and healed, or whether they're aspects of yourself, and more the ego self, more the part of you that rose up to protect you, the part of you that wasn't coming from love or the heart, but was coming from fear and pain. So there's all these different sort of expressions of this. And the feminine does a much better job at the feminine within all of us, I should say, is the one that assists us in transmuting and healing and alchemy. The feminine has been locked in a cage for a very long time, in many, many epochs. The feminine used to be exalted and respected and honored as priestess, as wisdom, as divinity, as all-knowing, as truth. And we honored that aspect within us. And it was more in those times, it was more, we were more actually drenched in gender and sex. And so instead of looking at it where the feminine within us, and I'm maybe a man, we actually had temples of women priestesses, and we used their knowledge and their wisdom. You know, we've always had this respect that women can have this intuitive knowing that's very deep. And so in some of our ancestors actually honored the female for that and gave her positions of power within that. And then there was a lot of shifts in our history, and the masculine got very intimidated and threatened by that and had to take away the power of the feminine. And what that has resulted in is this polarity, this fixing. I need to fix, there's something wrong. And so we kind of lost our ability to transmute. We lost our ability to heal, because if we automatically feel an emotion, you know, the scientific materialism that is prevalent in our day and age, but we're actually being guided to move out of, that's actually where we're trying to get to, believe it or not, because I know we're very entrenched in it, but that's what we have to sort of beat as humans. It is this idea of perfectionism, this distorted view of perfectionism. That's why we have things like people that are very interested in genes and eugenics and creating the perfect human and merging animal with man and, you know, matter and trying, basically playing God, right? Playing God in their scientific materialism so that I can perfect and I can create a human that doesn't get angry and doesn't get sad and doesn't have to go through this human experience, which is how it's our greatest gift, is transmutation and alchemy. It is our strength as a human. It's actually how we ascend. There are many people that try and trick the ascension process, but there must be a sacrifice. There must be a sacrifice of ego. And I don't like the word sacrifice, and I do want to transition out of using that word, but I think because it's been used so much in a distorted way, it's the way that we know. It's something that, you know, all religions talk about sacrifice and this idea of being a martyr. So it's something that we're very familiar with internally. We understand it. So that is the word I'm using, but it's actually an honor, a gift. It doesn't have to be a sacrifice, but there is this idea of that ego death that has to take place. And the ego is the one that wants to label good, bad. And so if you feel an emotion and you automatically reject it as bad, or it's uncomfortable, or if I feel this, it will be the death of me, it will kill me, it will make me irrational, it will make me, I will lose control. You are rejecting parts of yourself. Therefore, you are a fractalized spirit. Is that what you want me to say? You fractalize parts of yourself, kind of like dissociative personality disorder, things like that, right? There's parts of you that are locked up in cages within you. You are not self-actualized. You are not holistic. You are not divine, because you haven't balanced. You haven't come into wholeness and unity and neutrality. So when we are able to allow ourselves to transmute those darker parts, to look at the shadow, whatever it is, to face it within ourselves. And by the way, once we start to face it within ourselves, we can actually face it in society, and we can see it very clearly without the need to label it good, bad, wrong, because it's not scary anymore. You take the charge out of it. When you take the charge out of it from within yourself, you see things very clearly. It's a whole new world. You can see the truth in things, and you actually can understand, because you're using your heart, compassion and empathy for people being stuck, being fractalized, being stuck in those cages within. You can see it clearly. But instead of judging or condemning and saying you're wrong, you're bad, let's put you off in a prison somewhere, we have empathy, we have compassion. So we can recognize it. So this is a process that the feminine rising kind of ushered in, right? Any of us that our feminine was a little awake, we started to feel this. And some of us, especially those I'm speaking to here, you've been doing this your whole life without realizing it. You have been transmuting. You have been you know, if you're someone who's a feeler, right? And you tend to feel things, and, you know, it's always been looked at as a weakness to others, or maybe even to yourself. You've judged yourself as like, this is a weakness. This is something I need to like get better at. You know, I guarantee you, if you were someone who's a feeler, someone in your life told you that that was wrong and that that was going to hurt you. But you were always just better at transmuting. And that's a real gift, and that's a real skill, and it's going to be super coveted. People are going to want to know, teach me how to do that. This is kind of my projection into the future of what I'm seeing and what I feel people are going to be at. Because people don't want to do the work. They want someone to do it for them. They want somebody to give them a map and a guide and a key. And the thing about healing is there's no one size fits all. There's no one way, but it is messy. It can feel chaotic. It can feel scary, because you have to face that inner darkness. And that inner darkness is not wrapped up in a tiny little bow that you can just unpack and say, oh, there it is. Work's done. I'm done for the day, right? It's a process. It is through feeling. It is through surrender, through allowing yourself to be moved. And when you come to a place of your own healing journey where you have balanced out, this is what we talk about on twin flame journeys. This is the whole process. If you have a counterpart soul in the world, the two of you cannot come together until you have healed those inner demons, until you have wrestled within that darkness of yourself, and you are not projecting that shadow or mirroring that darkness to the other anymore. Because until that happens, you're repelling one another. No matter how much you care and love that person and you don't understand it, that's what's happening. So the journey catapults you onto this deep, deep alchemical spiritual path where you have to face that. You don't get a choice, really. I really don't believe you have free will choice on twin flame journeys. I mean, you do to an extent, but that's a conversation for another day. And so you have to come into, and this is why they're called divine feminine, divine masculine, because it's the balance of masculine and feminine energy within. You've looked at both, you've healed. Now they work together. Now they're not at war with one another within you, fighting each other, condemning each other, good, bad, right, wrong, black, white, polarity. They are now in union. They now hold each other high. They hold each other high. So they call each other out when they need to. They don't placate. They don't allow complacency, right? They're not the devil energy that's like the friends around you. They're like, you're great, you're the best, you're awesome. No, they call you on your shit, but that process is going on within you now. So now you actually have a very solid foundation from which to work from which to be in service. And that's when the mission can be activated, because now you're seeing things clearly, because you see yourself clearly. So you can look out at the world and you can experience people, things, places from truth, and you don't have to question or doubt how you're seeing it. You see it clearly. You don't have to condemn or get mad at other people. You don't have to be afraid of other people. You don't have to be afraid of the darkness. When you see someone who you believe to be dark and they're preaching and they're doing some sort of dark agenda, you're not triggered by it. You're not scared of it anymore when you've come into wholeness and balance. That's a telltale sign. If you look at people and you feel so threatened and like, oh my God, and I have to fix this, and I have to fix this, right? I have to change this because this is wrong. When you have that feeling, and you know, this is where we see the internet trolling, and I mean, the spiritual community right now is a hot mess. It's a fucking hot mess of people just back and forth. You're wrong, you're bad, you're false light, you're this, you're that, blah, 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 right? But when you've truly come into this balance, that's not your game anymore. You eject yourself from that density. You eject yourself from that game. That's not yours anymore. Now spirit is actually inundating you with true service work, and the mission could come alive for you. And for some, the mission could be very clear. You're going to go build houses in, third world countries, and you're going to, whatever it is, you're going to just, and you're like, it's very clear, and I'm going to go do that. Beautiful. But for some, the mission and the work is actually this simple but profound act of transmuting, where you are just a professional feeler, where you now have balanced yourself, and when you know how to tell the difference between your own emotions and somebody else's, your own feelings, the own energy coming through you, and the inspired collective. You also can tell the difference between a higher benevolent being that you're channeling, and you know it's coming from love light, or an 8th sphere, astral, 4th dimensional being that's not coming from love light and is using trickery. but also flattery, right? Those energies use flattery. They love to placate you, make you feel good. We're going to give you all this money. We're going to give you, oh, we're going to make you look so good. You're going to be so famous. You're going to be, oh, they work with that. Higher density beings don't give a fuck how much money you have. They never do that. They'll never do that, honestly. But so we move into this kind of this differentiation, where that's discernment. There's this a big teaching, right, in this epoch is discernment. How do we discern? We go through the fire, we go through the darkness, we transmute, we heal our own pain, we heal our collective karma, we go through it. And then once we see it in ourselves, we see it in others, and we're coming from a sturdy foundation. Now Spirit brings us assignments, I like to say, literal assignments, because you're clear and you can see, oh, wow, there's a huge wave of darkness I'm feeling, but you know it's not yours, but you also know what to do with it. You know how to allow, surrender, not attach. You don't tell a story about it. You don't make it mean anything. And you allow it to be transmuted by your divinity, by your purity, by the frequency that you're holding now that you've chosen a path of love light and you've balanced and healed your own karma. So now you're able to take on these assignments. So when disasters happen in the world, darkness happens in the world, things go on, you're on the front lines, maybe not in the physical 3D. Maybe you are. Maybe you're not in the physical 3D on the front lines, but on the higher realms and the spiritual realms, you're in the front lines. You are in those battles. You are holding the light because you are a professional feeler, and you know how to do it. You know you won't get taken. You're not afraid of it. You don't judge it. You don't condemn it. You don't say it as bad, wrong. You know, you're a mess. You need to like fix your emotions. No, you know that this is gold. You know that this is spiritual gold. You know that this is Christ consciousness. You know, this is the Christ path. This is the path that's been laid out for us for our salvation. This is the middle line. This is how we walk out of darkness. This is how we escape the eighth sphere. This is how we escape the reincarnation trap. This is how we get out of the prison planet that some might call this realm. This is how we ascend. This is how we retain our knowledge. This is how we remember who we truly are, and we don't have to go through the veil of forgetting the next time we incarnate, if we choose to incarnate in density. But for many of us, we don't need to anymore unless we're here in service. This is the path. This is the ancient wisdom. This is the mystery school teachings, but this has been guarded. And it's a very easy thing to guard, because you see how hard it can be on that path. It's difficult. It's not easy. It's not a quick fix, which we're very obsessed with, and it takes time. So if you can see, if there are controllers that don't want people to ascend and don't want people to wake up, you can see how easy it is to manipulate people, and people from all different. Yeah, you can manipulate religious people. You can manipulate atheists. You can manipulate scientists. You can manipulate New Age and spiritualists. You can manipulate everyone, because there's always a divergent path. There's always this eighth sphere path. And I don't think I've gone into eighth sphere here on YouTube, but if you're curious, Gigi Young is an incredible teacher on eighth sphere. It's Rudolf Steiner work there. But so there's this very clear way out of the pain and the darkness. But the irony is you have to feel it. You have to go through it. You can't avoid it. That is this Christ path. That is the sacrifice. That is the, the beautiful story of this way forward, right? That is this gift for humanity. And many of us who are incarnated as twin flames, that's what we're here to do. We're here to go through it ourselves, and then we're here to be this light and this example for others. It doesn't mean it's easy, but we are moving into this place of being able to recognize the divinity and the wisdom in it, and knowing what's mine and what's the collective's, and knowing there's nothing wrong with being open to feel, allowing yourself to transmute. And the beautiful thing is it alchemizes. And the cool thing is like science is starting, there are factions of it that are starting to be able to show you and prove what's actually going on with alchemy and how emotions can create. And anyways, that's a side tangent, but there's a story that's coming to mind about, I think it was like this gold dust that we kept getting in our atmosphere. Some of you might know, but I'm not going to go into it here, but Spirit just brought that to me, and I was like, oh yeah, like there's a physical manifestation of this. But we also see the physical manifestation of this in healing, in people, you know, being able to let go of their trauma and their pain and their darkness, people loving themselves, forgiving themselves, accepting themselves, you know, divine masculines going from boy to men, you know, going from a boy to a man, and being able to look at their darkness and be able to hold the darkness of another, you know, instead of looking at their feminine as this scary, chaotic, out of control, you know, woman, seeing the power and the strength and the beauty in that, because they see it within themselves, because they're not fighting or neglecting that part of themselves anymore. Their inner feminine is alive and well and strong. And now their masculine gets to step into the role that they've always wanted to be in, but from a very balanced and whole place without distortion. Because we see what happens when the masculine steps into this power without earning that power, being a little boy in this position of power. Look at our world. Look at the, you know, quite literal rape of the feminine, of her wisdom, right? And look at, you know, the darkness that is created from the feminine, because then what happens is this, you know, with the polarity, is dark feminine emerges, and the dark distorted feminine comes in to manipulate the masculine. So the thing that the masculine was afraid of the whole time, he now alchemizes and creates without any awareness or knowing that he's doing it. So, you know, he was afraid of his own darkness, his own feminine. Look at all the dark feminines out in the world, fucking men over, manipulating men and women for that matter. You know, women that are not divine mothers, women that are not holding love light or unconditional love, and they can't, because they're quite literally a manifestation of this neglect and rejection of the true divine feminine. And it's the same thing within feminines, right? When we neglect the masculine, the pure, you know, loving masculine within us, we manifest the thing we're so afraid of, the masculine that hurts us, the masculine that controls us, right? The masculine that doesn't honor us, doesn't hear us, doesn't listen. So when we understand this relationship, and that our bodies are actually such a tool, our human vessels are something to be honored, not rejected. I see so many people in the spiritual community being like, I just want to be up in the stars, and like rejecting their human body, rejecting emotions, peace, love, and light, you know, wanting to be in this spiritual bypassing, and, you know, rejecting the whole human story, rejecting things like money, you know, rejecting all of it, and just being, you know, very kind of like up in the clouds. That's the thing that a lot of people view spirituality as, and they can't get on board. They can't find their way in because they can't relate to that. But true spiritual wisdom is a balance of both the masculine and the feminine. It's not rejecting one for the other. It's not condemning one for the other. It is a wholeness. It is honoring the emotion and allowing yourself to feel it. It's not seeing a disaster in the world and going, you know, it's a psyop. Whether it is or whether it isn't, there's pain. Don't look away from the pain. That's one of the greatest, most powerful things that we as humans can all do right now, is not turn our head away from the suffering. We've been taught that. But that is neglecting and running away from our own humanity. And it's so prevalent. I mean, it's why, you know, there's so much darkness kind of trying to emerge, and it's been trying to emerge for, I would say, almost a decade now, like real shit that's been going on for a very long time within humanity. Actually, since the beginning of humanity, this stuff has been going on, and we haven't wanted to see it. And you wonder why. You wonder why we didn't have the strength or the depth or the power to be able to hold it and look at it. And then there's so many people banging their heads against the wall because they're like, you guys, look, how many people have to die? How many people have to suffer until we actually address this? We have to address it within first, which is transmutation, which is alchemy. So for those of you, and I'm going to wrap this up because I know I've been going, for those of you that have reached a state where you can, your nervous system, your human body, your human vessel can hold the density without getting rattled, and you'll know that you're not still getting triggered all the time. Like, that's something you have to be really honest and in ownership about. Do you have like a wound that's open and bleeding, and you're walking around and people are poking it and it's not getting to heal? Probably not ready to do transmutation for the collective, and that's okay. I truly believe spirit won't even bring it to you until you're ready. But for those of you that do feel like you have come to this place of divine wholeness, you're not condemning other people, you're not getting in internet fights, you know, in the comment section, you're not out there, you know, judging. You feel like you have a pretty good take on discernment, but you're also open to being wrong. Because by the way, discernment is about being open to being wrong. You're like, I have a gut feeling about this person, but I could be wrong, you know, or I'm going to learn what I need to learn from this person. And if spirit shows me one day that it wasn't actually in love light, instead of getting mad and pissed off and needing to get validation or, you know, my justice, I'm going to be like, what a beautiful lesson. Thank you. And move on. Right? That's like true balance in discernment. So when you're at that place, you are ready. You're ready to be this light worker, true definition of the light worker. It's almost like dark worker, shadow worker, 1222. You're almost, that's like a shadow worker. You are a professional feeler. You are able to allow and transmute and give something so much more beautiful. Not that what was coming in wasn't, but you take that darkness and you turn it into light and you gift it. And your example, which is like the Christ consciousness path, the example that you show is not I'm better than. It's not a hierarchy. It's not like, oh, I can do this and you can't. It's I can do this, therefore you can. That is what we are holding. And a lot of this happens energetically in the higher realms, but we can really see it in third density. We can really see it show up in that way. But I want to empower and support those of you that are there and doing this, and you feel judged and you feel condemned by others around you, and you question it sometimes and you go into doubt. This is such a gift. It's such a tool. And it's, I'm not even kidding you. People are going to be banging on your door in the next, you know, this epoch, this place that we're in. This is what people are going to want to know, and they're going to want to learn, and they're going to want you to teach. And many are going to want to take the easy route. And there will be many false teachers that will come out and be like, I have the easy path to transmutation. I'll do it for you. 2 weeks, $10,000, hire me. I can already see it. But you'll know the truth. You'll know the truth. You'll feel it, especially if you're in this divinity, this wholeness. You'll be able to see it, and you'll be open to people working with you because you know you can teach them that. But you'll also know that if they're not ready, there's no point. I mean, I don't do marketing because you're only ready when you're ready. And I respect and honor if you're not, because I was there too. 100%. Like I knew there were teachers and counselors and coaches I could go to that I would get my my back patted and I would get soothed, and it wouldn't grow me. But that's what I needed a lot of the time. That's what I thought I needed. And I also knew there were teachers that scared the fucking shit out of me. Gigi Young was actually one of them, because I've known her I've been aware of her work for a very long time. And it scared the shit out of me because it made me have to confront things. And I didn't want to, like, even being under their gaze or being in a session with them, like, would have been terrifying. And, you know, a lot of you can relate to this in people in your life that have come in and out of your life, like friends or people or lovers, divine masculines, divine feminines, you know, being in their gaze was terrifying, and you couldn't even tell why, but it's because you hadn't done that inner work. So when you do come to that place, then you're open, and spirit can align you with people that are ready for that process. And imagine, like, so this is all kind of solo work I've been talking about. Imagine what gets uplifted and shifted when it's union work, when it's two souls at that level doing that together, the transmutation, the healing, the alchemy, what's created, what can live, what can be held, what can be known in that place. I mean, it's like the mind can't even fathom, can't even comprehend how incredible. So that was a big one. That was a lot. I hope this message is understood and felt and received. I feel like this is something that could be highly supportive to many different people, not just twin flames, not just even people on spiritual paths. I mean, I guess you kind of have to have some knowledge and awareness of the spiritual world to understand, I guess, the language I used, but I would love you to share this. I would love that the people that could benefit and gain from this see it. This channel stays pretty small for my protection and your protection, and just to keep it as sacred as possible in a public space. But I also am very highly aware that it's not up to me. I don't have control over that. And it's the divine decides. So, but I do appreciate the support that you give to this channel, commenting, liking, subscribing. This is a huge, huge support and the easiest way to give back. There's also the Patreon community where we dive into this stuff times 100 and go into all of this in a much smaller, safer container. So there's even more deeper that we go in these concepts and just a lot of different support. So you can check that out below. There is that video I was mentioning in the beginning that will be linked below. You can check that out if you are on a twin flame journey and want some support, because that definitely will let you know kind of what's been going on in that collective currently. And yeah, if you feel called and guided to a session, and even if it's kind of scary, I would definitely encourage you to take a look. I mean, it's so interesting what I've been seeing so much in the business lately is it's not even what comes through in the session. It's like alchemy and shifts take place the second that you book. Before you were, you could book for a week in advance. And by the time I get to the session, this person is sitting here saying like, you won't even understand what's just happened in my life before getting here today. And that's how the divine works. That's how new earth works. That's what we're moving into. It's not about what we do. It's about who we are, the codes that we hold, and how that shifts. And this is, it's like you want to work with somebody who holds where you want to get to, and understanding that it's an energy. It's not a thing. It's not a material thing that somebody has. So anyhow, all right. That's it. I'm sending you all a lot of love. Thank you so much for being here. I appreciate you all.